Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joy in your heart, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are glad that you are here. I'm the Reverend Diana Smith, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a somewhat tall white woman in my mid-40s with short, curly white and brown hair, purple glasses, a blue dress with teal birds, and a very colorful stole with hands on it. I'm standing in UUS's pulpit at the front of our sanctuary, which is filling with people. Come on in from out there. Filling with people. Through the window walls of our sanctuary, we can see a beautiful, clear.
Or Bren Lindley. I am a feminine-presenting, non-binary white human with dark brown to graying hair that is piled in a messy bun on top of my head, and I am short for my age. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as I light our chalice, and then we'll do the words. Life is a gift, being manipulated and coerced and harmed by politicians and adults who should know better to put forth an ideology that now furthers the harm that was done to her, instead of advocating for correcting the systems and for building better structures in place so that that harm doesn't occur, and the kids who still need access to that care can get it. And I just want to lift her up because my mom really came out in listening to her speak, and how much I want to just let her know she is seen and heard, and she does not have to do this in order to make that happen. As I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps lift up prayers.
It is a momentous time in the life of a congregation when someone new, or many someone news, are welcomed into the covenant of membership, a time to rejoice in the gifts of this spiritual community. Today, Nick Kaplan, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, and Jeff Walberg, President of the Board of Trustees, will be joining me in leading this new member covenanting ceremony. Nick and Jeff, would you come up here? Unitarian Universalism is a non-creedal faith. No one needs to assent to a statement of belief in order to find membership with us. It is our covenant that binds us together. Being a covenantal rather than a creedal religion means that as a religious community, we're defined by how we come together and the values and ways of being we choose to affirm and promote, as well as our ways of relating to various theological truths rather than by a specific belief system. You could say that being defined by covenant means that Unitarian Universalist congregations are defined by love and the ways we're always seeking to live love more fully into the world. That's because covenants are a way of saying how we want to be in relationship with one another. They're a way of saying to whom and for what we want to be accountable, how we want to be with one another, and often some of the fundamental principles for our actions. They can also tell us about what we aspire to be together. Our covenants, and what we covenant for, fundamentally define us as Unitarian Universalists. They give us space to engage in our spiritual work that defines this as a faith community, a congregation. And so, this is a momentous occasion because it gives each of us the opportunity to renew our own commitments to living the covenant the fullest and best we can.
Each of the people we are celebrating this morning have taken the time and care to learn about Unitarian Universalism and this congregation. They have attended sessions to learn the history and values of Unitarian Universalism. They have learned some about our UUS history in the Iowa City area and about the variety of groups and opportunities we offer here. And they have attended a preparation for membership class where they met representatives of the board and membership associates, met with Reverend Diana, and heard the importance of supporting our congregation with their time, energy, and financial resources. Each person has affirmed our values and our principles and said yes to the call of our mission to serve one another and the world. Each understands that our faith is a lifetime's search for truth and meaning, and that joining this congregation affirms a willingness to continue to grow as people both emotionally and spiritually. When each of them signs the membership book, they are committing to the principles of Unitarian Universalism and to the values, mission, and vision of this congregation. I will now call our new members' names, and I invite them to come forward where Reverend Diana is, signing the membership book as they have heard their name. Brian Dial-Lapsowicz. Yeah. Megan Dial-Lapsowicz. Natalie Fixmore-Arise. V. Fixmore-Arise. Lucy Gammon. Victoria Hewitt. Emily Pritchard. John Ruppel.
New members, may this be your religious and spiritual home, and may you be woven into the intricate fabric that is this community's life together. Here you will be cared for, and you will be asked to care for others. We welcome your presence among us and ask that you join us in the life and mission of this congregation. In the presence of those gathered with us in person and online, I now ask that you state your intentions. Will you travel with us in a covenant of mutual care and love, help us be a welcoming and inclusive community, and share in the joys and the responsibilities of membership? Please say, we will. And will each one of you join us joyfully and as fully as you're able in our shared ministry of serving others as we seek to be a welcoming and spiritually diverse home, a place where we act on our values to honor the earth, advocate for racial and social justice, foster deep connections, and embrace the ongoing quest for meaning? Please say, we will.
We want everyone to be able to welcome these new members. If you're here in the sanctuary, I invite the members of the congregation to say, we will, when I indicate. If you're online, I invite you to extend your welcome to our new members using the comment function. So now, will you, ongoing members, joyfully welcome these persons into our congregation, invite them into our shared ministries, be open to their unique gifts and wisdom, and covenant to travel with them and each other in friendship, respect, and love? Members of the congregation, please say, we will. We will. Do you renew your promise to travel together with one another in a covenant of mutual care and love, to help us be a welcoming and inclusive community, and to participate in our shared service to one another and the world as fully as you are able? If so, please say, we do.
Brian, Megan, Natalie, V, Lucy, Victoria, Emily, and John. Joining the Unitarian Universalist Society is a powerful and transforming event in your lives. Membership comes with both gifts and responsibilities. Within this community of seekers, you will be challenged to grow in spirit and to live out our UU principles in your lives within this congregation and beyond it. Ours is a shared ministry. You'll be called to offer the fullness of who you are as individual persons in service to our mutual promises of love and care for each other. Our deep hope is that you will open your hearts to accept the gifts of spiritual community and know that you do not journey alone. As we end this ceremony, as a symbol of the light you bring to this community, we'll invite you one at a time to light a candle. Nick will help you. After that, in honor of signing the membership book, you'll receive a rose of friendship. Like life and like the rose, the journey of spiritual community may be thorny at times, and our hope is that your journey among us will unfold as sweetly as the petals of the rose. We are glad that you have chosen to make your spiritual home with us. Welcome. Please light your candle and receive your gifts.
To the new members of Unitarian Universalist Society, we welcome you. All right. All right, and now we'll have our lantern ritual for any children who would like to go to religious education classes. You can come forward as we say our special words, and then you'll follow Leah and the lantern to your classes. Congregation, I'm going to invite you to join me. Take the flame of our chalice so that you have our light, love, and hope with you as you explore our faith together. Children, youth, and teachers, we send you with our blessings and our love. All right, children, youth, and teachers, do you remember our words? We take this flame and your love with us on the journey. All right.
Rejoice around you as you go. Go in peace. Know our love is with you always as you go, as you go.
And now the folks who will be participating in sharing our message for the service today were some of the people who participated in the Equipping for Action workshops with C.B. Beal and Abena Sankofa Imhotep on October 6th and 7th, earlier this month. The workshops were powerful, both in the information that Abena and C.B. shared and in how they affected each of us. The folks who attended want to share some of what we learned and how it's affecting our lives, both personally and in how what we learned is affecting how the work we're doing together to create an ever broader and deeper beloved community. That is, as we work towards creating a community where all people are welcomed as blessings, can express themselves authentically and celebrate who they are. And we work towards reconciling humanity. We know that creating beloved community requires practicing radically inclusive and compassionate, anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural, multi-generational community within and beyond this congregation. One of the things that the workshops helped us reflect on was the moral injury of the myth of superiority. That is, of being taught that we have to perform perfection, independence, and not ask for help, that we're not interdependent and have to cut off parts of ourselves or our needs in order to belong, to be part of a superior group. They helped us begin to notice ways that we might question our assumptions and bear witness to each other as we work together to address the moral injuries that society has inflicted on us, and as we co-create beloved community. And so now you're going to be hearing from a whole bunch of different members as we go through different messages. And now Jeff, Kristin, and Quanda will share some of their reflections on the first workshop as they talk about questioning our assumptions and bearing witness to each other. Yes. Yeah, come on up here. Yeah. So, all right.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Kristin Wildensee. My pronouns are she, her. At the beginning of C.B. Beal's workshop, they gave us participants this charge: to enter in with the intention to change. That clarified for me in that moment. It felt very direct how sometimes we can consciously think we have the intention to change, and at the same time, subconsciously, truly, maybe we have no awareness that we think inside at some level we actually don't have to change, right? Like, I'm not the problem, it's those other people over there, And so declaring my intention to change, to be changed by what I hear and learn, is powerful and impactful on what comes next. I am not a mere observer or listener or intellectual learner about the information. I am not merely taking it in because it is interesting to know about, but does not really affect or apply to me. I am actually practicing, being willing to change, make mistakes, and keep going, and get better at it. Change, learning, and practice are integral in this journey of welcoming and accepting others in their wholeness. Thanks.
I'm Jeff Walberg. My pronouns are he and him. CB also noted that inclusion is not the goal. Liberation is the goal. And not just liberation for people with marginalized identities, liberation for me too. But inclusion is an important first step, and it requires that I give up the right to comfort. Because liberation requires change, as Kristin noted, and change takes work. A practice that CB offered is to simply notice our thoughts as we listen to others. As a somewhat dreamy person, I found it surprising that we should pay attention to our inner monologue while we listen. It's not typically the feedback I get from my family members, for instance. But this practice of noting our thoughts and reflecting on them later can help us remember that our thoughts often lie to us. Our thoughts sometimes stem from our preconditioning, and they reflect our inherent biases. So, a pathway to liberation requires that we give up some of our automatic responses and step more into a realm of not knowing and simply being present.
My name is Quanda Hood, and I'm a middle-aged West Indian woman with blonde-brown hair today and brown eyes, about 5'6", wearing a black shirt and black and white scarf. And for those of you who wonder why I'm lit up over here, it's because I'm wearing a heated vest. I don't like the cold. We all have biases, implicit or otherwise, even black and brown people. I say that because I, and people like me, experience our share of harm on the regular. I must remember I'm not the only one, because although I may encounter denials of my own experiences, I too can be just as obtuse to others' experiences and harm, perhaps even causing harm myself in the process. You know the old adage, hurt people hurt. The incredible workshop we attended reminded me to remove the Post-it note stuck to my forehead and read it. I must make space, as my harm is no excuse to compare and cause more harm. Through listening to hear rather than respond, we take a mental breath to check in with ourselves to ensure that what we witness isn't just about us. When someone speaks their truth, listening with love in our hearts and minds is a privilege. Let us listen as we would like to be heard. Binaural thinking continues to get us in trouble, right, wrong, black, white, female, male. When we are listening to others, even with the best of intentions, humility calls us to remember that the unique individual in front of us is just as gloriously complex as we are. And we are not here to judge, compare, or deny, but to listen and hold space with intentional love. Not to fix, not to explain, heck, sometimes not even understanding in the right there and in the then and now. So as George Eliot once said, with my slight modification, oh, the comfort, the inexpressible comfort of feeling safe with a person, having neither to weigh thoughts nor measure words, but to pour them all out just as they are, chaff and grain together, knowing that a faithful hand will take and hold them, keeping everything, and then with the breath of kindness, let it be, for this is their experience, and that person has given you a gift.
Thank you. And now, Christine Etler and Diana Henry are going to share about finding our roles in welcoming and inclusion. And I think Virginia and I are going to be helping you. And anyone else? You can call us up. You can.
That'll come later. We'll do that later. Hello, I'm Christine Etler. I use she, her pronouns. First, I'm going to do a little talk, then we're going to do a demo after. Okay. C.B. Beal discussed preemptive radical inclusion. Preemptive radical inclusion is an adaptive set of perspectives and practices that people use to increase justice and equality in their lives and organizations. That's just a bunch of words, but what does it mean? As I was reflecting on that, I remembered a friend's story. It starts out as a story about inclusion, but somewhere along the way, it went wrong. I and my friend of 30 years, Rachel, are both part of what I call my mom group. This mom group is now a Facebook group of 175 people, but it came together from different online groups and spaces and blogs, and also offline friend and acquaintance groups. We ended up together not because of where we lived or what college we went to. Our largest commonality is that we had babies at the same time, and we consumed internet media while we were doing it. Although this is an online group, I have met dozens of these women in real life and spent time with them, some on one-on-one visits, some in small groups, and a couple of times at large get-togethers we call mom cons. At a few of these visits, dozens, over 100 women from 5 different countries come together. So there was one mom con that I could not attend, but my college friend did. At the time, she was having some medical problems. She had developed severe sensitivities to some materials and chemicals after a surgery. She also was reacting to many foods, and her diet was severely limited. There were very few foods she could eat. At the same time, she wasn't that concerned about cross-contamination, as you sometimes are when you have food allergies. One of the main organizers of the MomCon, Sally, had the goal to preemptively make space for my friend. Rachel, my friend, did not know if she could eat the common foods that would be provided at the get-together, so she wanted to bring her own. She needed a space to store those foods. She wanted to know if she needed to bring a cooler or if there would be refrigerator space. She also wanted to make sure that she could prepare her food without getting in the way of others. So Sally responded by allowing Rachel access to a separate kitchen with a fridge. This was more than Rachel had hoped for and made Rachel feel very happy and very welcomed and included. When Rachel was at the gathering, she realized that some of the food was safe for her to eat. When it was, she ate some. She also noticed that there was ample space for her to do some food preparation in the main kitchen without being in the way. This allowed her to remain in the main social area, and of course she preferred that to being alone in a separate space far from the party. While at the party, Rachel felt included in the space and in the group. She felt she could coexist and commingle with the others in a place where she was also safe and getting her needs met. It sounded like it was a win-win for everyone. However, after the MomCon ended, Sally let it be known that she was not happy with Rachel. Sally had put time and energy into preparing a separate kitchen space for Rachel, and Rachel didn't even use it. Sally thought she was rude at best, maybe lying about her food restrictions at worst. Rachel was mystified. She hadn't asked for a separate kitchen, but even if she had, it should be seen as a happy thing that it wasn't needed and that she could spend more time with the group. Her experience of feeling included had turned to hurt. From her perspective, it turned out she wasn't welcome to participate in the way that was best for her. She was expected to include herself only if she participated in the expected space and manner that was prescribed for her. When C.B. Beal talks about preemptive radical inclusion, she refers to it as an adaptive set of perspectives and practice
and as process, activity, and intervention. It requires reflection and exploration. In my story, Sally started out great. She acted preemptively with good intent to include Rachel, but she had a fixed conception of what Rachel's participation would look like. She started by considering the needs of Rachel and showed motivation to make space for her, but she did not continue to adapt and reflect once the event was happening and once it became evident that Rachel's needs were not what she expected them to be. In preemptive radical inclusion, the word radical is there in the middle because if we are doing this correctly, the created experience won't be the expected experience. It might even be dramatically, radically different. Sally didn't account for the radical part of that question. She didn't accept the experience that was created. When it comes to creating welcoming, inclusive spaces, the objective isn't just to prepare spaces for people. It is to allow those spaces to evolve based on the actual needs and experiences of those involved. The radical in preemptive radical inclusion challenges us to remain open to unpredictability and change, understanding that the journey towards a more inclusive environment is one marked by constant learning and unlearning. So now, I'm going to switch to this wireless mic because we're going to do a little demo. Okay. I have, is Diana Henry? Oh, yes. We have a few volunteers. Virginia, Diana, Reverend Diana. Now, we're going to make a demonstration about being welcoming. These folks are at the fellowship hall chatting, and I am a visitor, and I'm going to try to break into the group. They're pretty wrapped up in themselves. So they didn't even notice me. I'm Christine. I'm a visitor. I've been here before, but I just couldn't seem to break into that group. So now, what could you do as a witness if you saw this happening, Sarah? What could you do to help? So let's try it again.
She's just visiting today, and I think she wanted to kind of connect with you.
Okay.
She was interested in the mystics.
Well, yeah. Come talk to me. That's great.
Okay, thanks. It's great. Great to be included. Yeah. All right. The setup they were in, we call that a donut. They were closed off to people around them. But what would happen if when we join together, we keep a space open? We turn ourselves into croissants. So we leave an opening. You can continue with the same kind of conversation you were having. This is something to consider while you're having your get-togethers in the fellowship hall. Leave a space open so that when I, the visitor, show up, oh, we can make a bigger croissant, yeah. Now we can make it. Yeah. This will be our, so every time we just open up a little more and we get a bigger croissant. So the message is croissants, not donuts.
All right, thank you. And now, Quanda Hood and Sarah Ross want to share a little bit with us about intervening in microaggressions, kind of following on from that. Oh, there we are. Okay. Quanda and Sarah? Okay. All right.
Hi there. My name is Sarah Ross, and I'm a 5'6" tall dyke. I weigh about 200 pounds. I have short brown hair. I need glasses to read, and I'm wearing black jeans and a white long sleeve overshirt. The ideas and activities that were shared in the workshops reconnected me to my own sense of agency and a fundamental experience of human dignity. One of the important things we focused on was learning about microaggressions and why and how to intervene if you witness one. Based on my life experience, my idea about what it meant to intervene in a microaggression was confronting the person causing harm by making an incisive comment that shamed them, while also vindicating and supporting the person being harmed. Why on earth would I think that was a good idea? Well, when I was growing up, my family had a very low bar when it came to personal accountability. My dad was an alcoholic, and getting away with hurting each other without apologizing or making amends was par for the course. So when I hurt someone as a young person, instead of learning how to apologize and rebuild connection, I learned to ignore other people's hurt and to betray my own feelings. And I learned that giving feedback meant being critical and shaming. Fortunately for me, living in community and as an adult has slowly changed and helped me heal my understanding of personal accountability and my own agency. I don't need to shame or blame anyone in order to intervene when I witness something that is demeaning or discounting of another person. I just need to stick my nose in. When I intervene by interrupting to ask a question or change the topic, I shift the focus and I take a constructive step to interrupt harm to another person's dignity. What's more, there's a lot I can do after that moment. I can reach out to the person I'm concerned may have experienced harm and check in with them. If they're willing to share, I can acknowledge and affirm their experience without defending anyone or making excuses for what happened. I can ask them if there's anything I can do to support them. I can reach out to the person who I am concerned may have caused harm and ask them what the interaction was like for them and if they're open to hearing a different perspective. I'm willing to risk making waves in my social circle, deepening some connections, and maybe losing others in order to lift up and recognize the inherent worth and dignity of others in this way. This is a life-affirming process. It's the lifeblood of a living community, and it's the lived expression of our human dignity, and it's the world I want to live in.
Morning, me again. Do you remember learning stop, drop, and roll? Some of us were taught to do that if we found ourselves or someone else on fire. Lately, it feels like we are either in an inferno or doused with gasoline holding a match and saying, everything's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine. As we see macro and microaggressions on the rise, what are we willing to risk to make that stop? I'm willing to risk everything. There's only one caveat, my 2 sons. It's enough to think and ponder about the ugliness of is it enough to think about and ponder the ugliness of microaggressions? Maybe. I'll throw out there that we can continue to deal with the same problems repeatedly like the proverbial can. Standing on the shoulders of those before me who risked their lives, including my own parents, how can I not do more than stand by listening to my gut say, well, that sounds rude, mean, hurtful, or seeing pain in another person's face and their body language. But you don't have to be ready to throw down in the high V and bust out a PowerPoint on educating about harm being caused. You might laugh, but I'm ready. You can stop it, disrupting, distracting, as Sarah mentioned. Drop it, get the person out of harm's way, change the subject, ask questions, and reevaluate later when it might be more appropriate. Enroll, be flexible, and judge what's best based on the person harmed. Do they need a moment? Or do they need some authority to step in? Do you need a moment? It doesn't have to be a full-on altercation, but a few keys are all it takes to stop. But a few keys to all of this is to stopping to learn and educate oneself about the harms that can be caused. If you don't know, you can't notice them. How do we do that? By reading, listening to others, and educating ourselves about the potential harm to others that can be caused, especially outside of our own experiences. As our other presenter, Abena Sankofa Imhotep said, you have to pick your battles, and what are you willing, able, and comfortable to do? Before, say, 2016, I'd call out egregious transgressions, but not those subtle digs that often. Like 1,000 paper cuts, after a while, it can take its toll. So I personally committed myself to doing my best to disrupt harm and learn when I was causing it. And I fail. I make mistakes. And I hope those around me feel comfortable enough to call me out on it. A few days ago, I spent the night in the ER with my oldest son, who's transgender, and his boyfriend, who's also transgender. I see the looks, the staring. One woman in particular should have taken a photo. It would have lasted longer. You could say maybe she was appreciating their colorful attire and hairstyle, but maybe as a marginalized person with a well-honed spidey sense, I'm very sensitive to what Black folks call the look. We know when others feel we should not be in this space. Mama Bear wanted to act. She was standing by, claws borne, frothing at the mouth, ready to fight. But at that moment, my baby was suffering from a crippling migraine. I couldn't stop or control, but I could control my actions, my response. The last thing Riss needed was for his mother to lose her mind. I wasn't powerless. I gave what I call the frowning of a lifetime. I stared back. For 3 hours, we waited every single time I stared back, locking eyes with her and not looking away, even though my stomach was in turmoil, seething with both anger and fear. I may not have gotten the message across that I wanted them to stop staring, mind your business, and hey, this is my kid and they're hurting, but you were here with and supporting someone in pain too. She stopped staring, my hope being perhaps she'll think twice about just staring at someone with what I perceive as a look of judgment on their face. Uber passive aggressive, I know. Perhaps I should have walked over and inquired to the stare, but it was late, I was tired, and I was worried. My potential reaction might have been over the top. I'm not even sure Riss noticed, and even if he did, that he cared. I reflect back and I think I should ask him now what he would have wanted me to do in that situation should it arise again. Just because I have experienced someone staring at me too long in a space that they don't think I have a right to be in doesn't mean that Riss does. And that is how we learn.
And now, finally, Rochelle Honey-Arcement and Diana Henry will be sharing about creating beloved community.
One of the components of Abena presented, which has stuck with me over the last 2 weeks, has been her discussion of 4 ways in which people respond to social situations and how they relate to microaggressions. The 4 ways people respond or react are emotionally, intellectually, morally, or social/relationally. When a microaggression occurs, the person who caused the microaggression is responding to a social situation in one of those 4 ways. The person experiencing the microaggression and any bystanders also react in one of those 4 ways. When intervening regarding a microaggression, it is helpful to understand what reaction the aggressor is having, as well as being aware of our own reaction to what they have done. This better allows us to genuinely connect and make the impact we want to make. When we can understand the basis of the reaction they are having, we can meet the person where they are. For example, if they are having an emotional reaction, such as fear, if we approach them from an intellectual or moral perspective, we are not going to be effective and might actually make the situation worse. Instead, if we are able to empathize with their fear, meeting them where they are, we can then shift the conversation once they have been validated. Similarly, if someone is reacting intellectually, spouting facts and statistics, us coming at them with an emotional response is only going to prove to them that we are overly emotional and a snowflake, and that we have nothing intellectual to contribute. We would need to meet them with an intellectual response, even if our initial reaction is emotional or moral. In order to effectively respond, we have to practice some of the skills previously spoken from CB. We must listen to understand without judgment, while paying attention to our own reactions to what the speaker is saying. This will help us determine which of the four responses the individual is having, and will help us to identify what kind of reaction we are having at the same time. When we know those, we can internally validate our own reactions, but adjust our response to better impact the intervention. As a therapist, I spend most of my day listening without judgment, and I pay attention to my own reactions in order to be more fully present for my client. This week I had a client whose husband passed. My father's anniversary of his passing is tomorrow. I really had to be aware of my reactions so that I could be present with her in those moments. Additionally, my aim is really to meet my clients where they are. So I'm often observing the reactions of my clients. And this four reaction framework has been really helpful in my fine-tuning my skills around this. Similarly, I often work with clients who are having conflicts in their lives, be it with family, coworkers, or friends. I have been reflecting on how helpful this four response framework can be in most conflicts. It helps if we pause, slow things down, and think about how the other person is reacting and why they might be reacting in that way. It helps us relate with them and hopefully avoid miscommunication and missed opportunities for connection and repair. So my intention moving forward is to educate myself more on the ways of these four reactions show up and ways to intervene when people are having each kind of those reactions. Hopefully, this will better equip me to intervene when I witness microaggressions, navigate conflicts, and provide my clients with skills which might improve their relationships.
Okay, my name is Diana Henry. My pronouns are she, her. I have on a brownish head wrap, a cranberry jacket, a flowery top, and green slacks. I want to share an experience of microaggression and how Equipping for Action workshop introduced some strategies for interrupting microaggression. How can a beloved community evolve from microaggressive encounters or environments? Well, I'll get to that. A few years ago, I led a guided tour for the exhibit Untangling the Roots at the African American Museum of Iowa. This exhibit explored the cultural, historical roots of beauty ideals surrounding African American hair, from the historical effects of slavery and colonialism to modern issues of cultural appropriation and reaction to natural hairstyles in the workplace. Visitors had the opportunity to engage with Iowa's African American history through oral histories from local hairstylists, hands-on interactives, and curated objects from beauty schools and salons across the state. During the tour, one of the visitors in the group, who was white, asked if she could touch my hair. At the time, I wore my hair in a twist style. I was shocked by such an insensitive remark, which demonstrated her obliviousness to how she had reduced me to an object without a sense of understanding or feelings regarding what she had done. Microaggressions, as cited in the Equipping for Action workshop, are brief, daily, verbal, behavioral, and environmental exchanges, unintentional and intentional, meant to communicate hostile, derogatory, marginalizing group memberships. While microaggressions are generally discussed from a perspective of race and racism, any marginalized persons may become targets. People of color, women, LGBT persons, persons with disabilities, religious minorities, and so on. In my case, it was racial. The workshop facilitator, Abena Imhotep, identified 3 strategies for interrupting microaggression. A, interruptive intervening conversation. B, calling in, meaning you take someone aside and you talk to them. C, calling out. I realized that my response to the woman was to call her out. I told her that what she was asking was inappropriate. In other words, I publicly named what she was doing as harmful behavior. I wasn't overbearing or aggressive in my pronouncement, and I continued the tour. The effective aim of interruptive intervention is to convey disapproval or discomfort towards a behavior while avoiding causing the person to become defensive or shaming them. There might be times in which some of us within this congregation will experience some form of microaggression. Learning to acknowledge microaggressions and using strategies for interrupting microaggressions can help build what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called a beloved community. His view of such a community includes diversity and allows for attention undergirded by love, leading to transformation. To do so, we must truly love our neighbors, members, as we love ourselves. We must change, evolve to manifest all the 8 principles.
And so we have heard from several of the congregation's members who attended these workshops, and there are more out there. If you attended these workshops, would you just raise your hand right now, any of them? And there are a lot more people who aren't here who have attended them too. So I encourage everyone here, if you're interested in hearing more, talk to some of the folks. Find out if anybody you know attended. As we end, I wanted to lift up a few more ways that you can learn more or get involved yourselves. There are several resources in the bibliography for today's service, including videos from Abena, Sankofa, Imhotep, and CB Beal. There's a trans-inclusion class. There are books you can check out from UUS's library in the atrium. One of those is Mistakes and Miracles, which was the UUA common read for this past year. And we're in the process of planning discussions around that that will hopefully begin in November. So stay tuned for those and start reading the book if you haven't yet. Because to discuss a common read, you gotta read the common read. There are copies available in UUS's library or for purchase in the church office. And finally, Abena mentioned that book groups are a particularly good place to delve into this kind of thing more. So people who are interested in being part of or leading a book group related to what we discussed today should get in touch with Nick Kaplan, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, so we can see if there are enough people to create one. And so now, I'm going to invite us into a time of meditation and reflection. While Xinghui plays, I invite you to reflect on what's been shared today by other folks in this congregation and what you're taking away with you. Where does this invite you into being, into learning, into acting?
How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance that we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency this month is the Domestic Violence Intervention Program. The Domestic Violence Intervention Program, DVIP, provides comprehensive support and advocacy services to victims, survivors of domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and human trafficking, focusing on immediate and long-term safety, empowerment, dignity, and hope. Services include a 24-hour hotline, in-person advocacy, criminal justice, and economic support, an emergency women and youth shelter with kennel services, and more. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. In addition to assisting our community partner, you may contribute toward your pledge to our society or contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses. You may also contribute by check using the memo line to designate the purpose. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is almost completely supported by the generosity of all who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red, when the summer ceased its gleaming, when the corn is past its prime, when the
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we gather in the fellowship hall and outside for conversation and community. Our discussion questions, which you may want to chat about during coffee hour, are: what particularly caught your attention in today's service? How are you planning to work on cultivating compassion and making space? And at 11:30, the UUS Prison Ministry will host a forum with Sue Hutchins, who is the co-chair of the Iowa Justice Action Network and a prison reform activist and author. Please join us at 11:30 after the service today. And now, to close our service today, we will sing hymn number 1056. Please rise in body and spirit as you are able.
Nala Pasakia.
Nala Pasakia.
And those are the words. Hey, Kia, Nala Pasakia. Hey, Nia, or Kia, Nala Pasakia. It's fun. Do your best.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
As you go out into the world today and in the coming days, may you go ever looking for ways to create more compassion, more space, to respond more fully and more truthfully. Go in peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into this world. Amen. And blessed, blessed be.
Om Havarim in Hebrew, center, aisle, you're with me, sides, you're with Virginia. We start all together, and then we split. Shalom.